In Georgia, there's not a whole lot of support for vulnerable animals.
As the veterinary profession continues to evolve, unfortunately, the cost of that has also grown exponentially.
The housing situation in Athens-Clarke County is in many ways just at a critical point. There's a real lack of affordable housing, and we have about a 30% poverty rate.
It really makes it hard for people that don't have the funds to care for their dog or cat. Because, if you're not taking care of your dog or cat regularly, when they have a problem, it's a catastrophic problem.
In various pockets, there are organizations that have set up programs to help keep animals in good, even if impoverished homes. But there's nothing statewide, and as a result, there's a high level of neglect for the animals of Georgia. My name is Lisa Milot. I'm a professor of law at the University of Georgia, and I focus on animal welfare for my research and teaching. We see 4 general categories of reasons for animal neglect. The first is going to be poverty. People who can't care for themselves have a difficult time caring for their animals at a standard that we as a society might think they should.
Housing is always an issue here in Athens. Housing with animals is always an issue here. I think our vulnerable population of people then obviously have a more vulnerable population of animals.
A number of the lower income places started not allowing dogs or limiting the size of any pets. And that's been a real crisis for a lot of pet owners, where they have to decide between keeping their housing but losing their pets, looking for other housing, and becoming homeless themselves.
For basic vet care, I think even that is out of the realm of many people's income levels. And it's not really something that's been thought about before acquiring the pet. But once they have the pet, it's difficult to maintain their care.
The Veterinary Care Accessibility Project looks to improve access to veterinary care across the United States. On a county and state basis, they assess how possible it is for residents to obtain vet care for their pets. To do so, the project considers a number of factors: the local poverty rate, the percentage of residents without access to a vehicle, the number of veterinary clinics and professionals per household, and more. Each county is assigned a score based on how accessible veterinary care is, with a 100 representing very accessible care and a 0 representing virtually inaccessible care. More than half of Georgia's counties ranked in the bottom quarter of the country for accessible vet care, giving the state a score of 29 overall.
The rising cost of veterinary care really endangers the most vulnerable animals in the community. What we see in one of the community programs I run is that about half of the animals have been to a vet in the past, but they're not up to date on their shots or preventatives because at some point there was a negative economic event in their household that meant that they weren't able to go to the vet. And as prices increase, they are even less likely to be able to get the care that they need.
And then there's simple issues like you can't take your dog on the bus. So just getting to the vet clinic, if you don't have transportation, it's really difficult to access care.
In addition, some folks are neglecting their animals because they don't have the information they need to care for them properly. They might not understand heartworms and the role that preventative plays, for example. And so if their dog gets heartworms, it's an example of neglect, but at the same time, it's based in a lack of information.
There are a lot of language barriers which we run into where people are not speaking English in a way that allows them to become familiar with the subject of veterinary medicine. It's a complicated issue.
And not every vet clinic has someone that speaks Spanish. So when they make the phone call, nobody understands what they're talking about. So they just give up and just say, never mind, I'll not go.
In addition, there's some folks who really think of their animals more as property than as members of their family. So there might be inertia in starting to take care of them at a higher level. And finally, there are some folks who are simply malicious. We see this with respect to any sort of offense, and there's a small number of people who intentionally harm the animals. Effectively dealing with these categories means trying to identify what the underlying issue is so that you can resolve that instead of just dealing with the surface level of here's a tethering problem, so I just need to get the dog off the tether without actually fixing whatever led to that dog being on the tether in the first place. So in 2019, Jesse Dyer, who was then a graduate student at the vet school at UGA, and I published a study showing the areas of Athens-Clarke County where we had disproportionate clusters of dogs coming in showing various characteristics. I started thinking through interventions that might help overcome some of those issues. So if we think about physical neglect, what resources, what intervention could we take that might enable those animals to better stay in their families, or if they come into the shelter, to come in at a better starting point. And from that came the idea of a pilot program to provide resources to the neighborhoods where we were getting the disproportionate clusters of dogs, in this case that were showing physical neglect and social neglect. So in 2020, my 501c3 that I run, called Athens Pets, funded a pilot program in a neighborhood in Athens where we based it on the Humane Society of the US's Pets for Life program. That was our starting point, and we decided to refine it though. We were interested in changing norms in the neighborhoods, and we were also interested in a more targeted intervention. We looked at census tracts that were high in ratings for human social vulnerability. So where do the people struggle more in general? And overlaid on that, where are the dogs that have these characteristics we think are subject to intervention? Where are they coming from? And we designed a program to go into a community every other week for 6 months. And we used a progressive vetting model instead of a model where people come in and get everything they need for their pet in one visit like you might with a normal vet clinic. We wanted to establish ties to the community and really get to know the people and have them get to know us as well as animal services so that we would have a relationship there. In choosing the neighborhood for our first cycle of the pop-up vet clinics, we looked at the animals coming into the shelter from various neighborhoods compared to the condition of animals coming in from the county more generally. And while the dogs in the target area only represented about 4.5% of the shelter impounds that year, in general, the dogs that were impounded from the county were euthanized only at a 6.6% rate. So only 72 dogs from the county overall were euthanized. But in this target area, 29.4% of the dogs were euthanized. And moreover, they were euthanized quickly. They were generally euthanized as soon as they came off stray hold or as soon as they were surrendered, showing that they were coming in such bad condition that they weren't being held and made available for adoption, unlike the dogs in the rest of the county, which were being euthanized after 14.6 days, which is a more common trajectory. The dogs come in, they're in fairly good condition, they're socialized, they're made available, and they start to degrade after being held in a kennel for 2 weeks.
So the stuff that I need for today is my name tag, so everybody knows who I am. And then my stethoscope, so I can do some basic physical exam work. Bye, buddy. I love you. I was a first-year vet student, and I went to one of these clinics, and I didn't know what it was at all. Part of our curriculum requires us to put hands on every animal that we see in our first year, basically. And so putting our hands on animals in the community, having it be a super low stakes environment because we're not doing anything more than physical exams and basic diagnostics. So super low stakes, low pressure, but the reward is huge for us.
We have vet students doing the work under the supervision of a vet, with the dogs being handled by a variety of people.
Did she have any tartar?
Moderate.
Moderate? Good.
Both sides.
Good job, buddy. That was so brave.
And by being handled by a variety of people, we're overcoming that social neglect by giving them those interactions. And while the dogs are having that experience, the law students were working with the owners to work through both the laws regarding pet ownership and best practices so that the owners could then have the information they need in order to make appropriate choices for their animals.
I think it's super important that the law students are here. Nothing's going to change unless people get involved with the law. And so for them to work with us here, see problems firsthand, us learning from them about some of the laws that we have here and them learning from us about the medical side of things, it's a really valuable partnership.
The issue with the pop-up clinic is they're not going to be there forever. So it's trying to change those norms in those neighborhoods so that people see their pet as more than a backyard dog. They see it as a family member. And then hopefully giving them the resources and the tools that they can reach out to animal services in the future if they need help with something.
We ended up with about 100 animals in that program and really had a great experience in the community, but it seemed like we still needed more before we could expect that these animals would transition to brick and mortar vet clinics, which is the ideal, is for the that have the basic care so that the vet care at a full service clinic is more affordable and where their owners understand more about why they need to go. PetSmart Charities actually worked with us to develop a second portion to that, where we would have the first time we went into the community, those 6 months where we provided the vet care for free and really emphasized the relationship and then information. And then a year later, we go back into the community and we have pay for services clinics where the same people come, but they're transitioning to a brick and mortar vet clinic. We do charge an amount, but it's 3/4 of what's charged at local shop clinics, with the idea that it both provides sustainability for the program by having income coming in, as well as transitioning the folks to a traditional clinic where they have a better understanding of the costs they're going to incur on the way in.
You know, sometimes in vet med, there are some cases that are really hard. There are some times where you don't get a lot of wins, especially being in the referral hospital where it's pretty severe cases that come to you. So being able to get the small wins really means a lot, even if it's just somebody changing their mind about something super simple.
We've done so many clinics since the original one, it can be hard to think back to how all of this started and what it looked like initially. We were starting in September of 2020, so we were dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic in a systemically underprivileged community. So we were very aware of everything we had to do to try and ensure that we weren't doing more harm in the community than good.
I do really think Athens is a pet-friendly, animal-forward community, and I think that's great. I think there is a lot to be said for animal services where residents feel comfortable calling and they have some trust. It's a bunch of professional people that are just really trying to do the best thing for the animals in the area.
It took a little bit for the folks there to begin to trust us. Their interactions with animal services in the past have been negative. And so we actually only had about 8 or 9 animals signed up for our first clinic. We had gone door to door to talk to people, get them signed up, but there just was not very much community support at that point. And I was wondering if this whole thing was going to be an abject failure, honestly. But as we were there and we saw those first couple of animals and the vet students started handling them and my law students and the vet students were communicating with the owners, it all started to change, where they were actually having really good conversations and someone would walk by and be like, oh, what's going on here? Because we were in a parking lot. And be like, oh, I have a dog. Can I bring him? And we're like, sure, we've got time. Like, come by, just go home, get him, bring him back, because we had all these open appointments. About halfway through, we had regularly 30-some animals at each one of our clinics. We were booked out a couple clinics in advance, and it just grew from there.
In the pilot program, 59 families worked through the education modules, and 109 dogs received no-cost basic vet care. Many of those animals returned a year later for boosters and heartworm tests and preventatives. Today, 156 families and 295 animals and counting have benefited from the program. 164 animals were spayed or neutered as part of the program, and an additional 48 animals were referred for spay-neuters through program participants.
Good morning, guys. So happy to have you. Thank you for coming out on that ice cold morning.
We're going to be rushed at times, but we do want to make sure this is a good experience for the people and dogs. A lot of these dogs have not previously been to a vet unless they've come here. We find that a lot of the dogs have not had outside people handling them, and so they're a little bit nervous. And so we just want to make sure it's a really good experience for them. Any questions? Okay, so as soon as you guys are ready, we're ready to go.
Just making sure female, already spayed, not on any preventative at this point.
Nice and shiny.
Oh, those are good teeth. Yeah.
You don't really know whether this client has any interest or not in this procedure, so you can give her the opportunity to be interested. So you could say, on our physical exam, we see that he's not neutered. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Some of the stuff that we do at the pop-up clinics are obviously we do, the major vaccines and the heartworm test and combo test if it's a cat. We'll set up teeth cleanings, heartworm treatments, and then we send them home with heartworm prevention and flea control. They also get free stuff like there's collars and leashes and bowls, food from us because we bring the food from our pantry there. Food gets donated a lot of times to the shelter because everybody wants to make a donation and they'll donate food. So any donated food goes into what we call the food pantry. So if you come in and you need food, then you're able to get food out of the food pantry. The last fiscal year, we gave over 7,000 pounds of food.
A big part of the pop-up clinic, as far as education goes, is discussing animal care with the owners. So the owners get a real in-depth conversation going over an aspect of veterinary care or animal care. What's the basic level of care for a pet and what you should be prepared for long term?
In addition, we offer free spays and neuters to everyone. We don't require it as part of the program. And what we found is about 25% of the animals are spayed and neutered when they come to us. And about 25% of the owners say yes immediately when we offer them a free surgery. And then another 25 percentage points say yes to the free spay neuter offer after they develop a relationship with the vet team.
At this clinic, we try extremely hard to be very open to everyone, wherever they're at in their pet care journey. We're trying to meet them there and just help them move a little bit closer to optimal care for their pets. But we're trying very hard not to put judgment on someone based on past history or what they've voiced about an option. We just try to find out what their concerns are, dig a little deeper into why they feel uncomfortable, and then try to address those issues as best we can.
Every animal needs care. Every animal should have care. And like I said, these owners want to care for their animals. And I don't think that where you are in your life and in your journey should be a barrier to you being able to have an animal and care for them. And so these community resources and these services that we're providing are of the utmost importance to the community and the animals here.
Education-wise, we have the veterinary students also included in that spectrum because they are first, second, third year students that are just working their way through a very intensive program. And the first couple of years, there's very little actual hands-on, actual, boots on the ground kind of work. And they're just so thirsty for that and so excited to get to take out their stethoscope and listen to a dog's heart. And they get to talk to people who have concerns about their pet, and they can realize that these people love their animals as much as the students love their animals. And so they want to provide the best for them. And so being able to get some experience in communication and discussion of those things with people is fantastic. And in the process, we expose them to the fact that not every pet owner has an unlimited wallet when it walks in their clinic, and that they can be creative in how to provide good care for these pets in spite of that, and that they have to think outside the box.
The fact that we are able to offer these things that people couldn't afford, couldn't get otherwise, I feel like improves everything for everybody. Like healthier pets, less pets in shelters, pets that are more used to handling, owners that are more educated and understand what more goes into pet ownership.
Oh my gosh, I love it. If they had it every weekend, I would be here every weekend. I signed up for all the ones in the years past that I could. I really love to see the animals, especially these guys in this tent right here, a repeat. I saw them last February, and to see them again is great because I know that they're getting the care that they need. And then also talking to the owners that we had out here today, you can really see that they care about their animals really deeply, and it really feels good to be able to give them the care that they need.
The biggest way that community interventions has evolved since we started the program is by incorporating in the element that tries to make it sustainable.
Personally, I hope we continue them. I love the clinics. I love going. I love all of the resources that we're able to offer. I think that we're a county that above the rest. I don't think a lot of counties do it.
This means so much to me. This means a great deal. I'm sort of winding my career down, and this is one of the things that keeps me working. I love being part of this. It's so rewarding to feel like you have made a difference, making these animals' lives better, making the owners' lives better, helping them achieve what they want to do, which is care for their animals well. And we're part of that, and it's super rewarding.
I think the goal is that we're just able to continue planning for the future, and then expanding it to maybe some more targeted communities that we haven't hit so far.
The more we have in place to help with the animals, with their welfare, with creating spay-neuter programs, with outreach programs like the pop-up clinics, we've elevated the animal care in that community, and it really both enhances the community just in a ethical way, but also in a monetary way as well.
The reasons vet care isn't accessible differ by community. Sometimes it's the locations or operating hours of the local clinics. Sometimes it's expensive to care. Other times it's because there are no local vet clinics. As a result, the exact mix of resources that make care accessible and helps residents care for their pets will vary. However, some programs that can help anywhere include pop-up vet clinics, funding support for in-office and emergency vet care, pet food pantries, and field vaccinations. Pop-up vet clinics can be held anywhere there is a need. The PAUSE program highlighted in this video let appointment scheduling be very flexible. While the clinics are a great opportunity for vet students and law students to learn and give back to the community, the students aren't critical to running a similar program. Anyone can work through the education modules with the clients. For more expensive or specialized vet care not easily provided in the field, one of 3 approaches is used: spay-neuter funded by a local nonprofit under its spay-neuter program, co-pays for certain services, or providing interest-free loans for community members in the event of extraordinary expense or emergency. The pet food pantry is stocked with food donated to the shelter, food purchased by a local nonprofit, and food collected by a local car dealership, Phil Hughes Honda, which provides a service discount twice a year for customers bringing a bag of pet food with them. The program has been successful, and corporate partners are being lined up for the other 10 months of the year. Bags of food are provided to community members who need them. When they come to pick it up, staff discusses other needs the person might have, referring them to appropriate county agencies and nonprofits for assistance. In this way, the shelter itself has become a resource hub for the community. Outbreaks of parvo have become more frequent since the COVID pandemic. To deal with the issue, animal control officers will soon be able to provide distemper parvo vaccines and microchips in the field at no cost. A local nonprofit will pay for the vaccines and microchips, and ACOs will have small refrigerators in their vehicles, like ambulances have for human medical supplies. No 2 communities have the same needs. Even in Athens, the pop-up clinics in the first neighborhood worked somewhat differently than those in the second. Spending time talking with the people, finding out what they need, and the sort of schedule that works for them is vital. The resources are out there. It just takes some drive and creativity to tap into them. Doing so not only helps a lot of animals, but brings people together as well.